President Trump on Friday night firing at least a dozen inspector generals. Those are the internal watchdogs who monitor federal agencies. Now, that's according to the Washington Post and the New York Times. The dismissals could violate federal laws.
Donald Trump's crime spree looks like it's going to continue. Late last night, Donald Trump pulled a Richard Nixon and fired a bunch of employees. In this case, instead of attorney generals, he fired inspector generals, who are in charge of launching independent investigations into fraud and abuse inside of government agencies. Not only is it obvious that he's purging the people whose job it is to drain the swamp, but it seems like this move is blatantly illegal. I guess that's kind of Trump's thing recently. We'll check out who was fired and why by taking a look at Donald Trump's playbook, Project 2025. But first, if you're liking the video, make sure to like the video and double check that you're subscribed. Now, at first, this move might seem kind of random, seeing as most of the dismissed IGs were Trump appointees from his first term. And generally speaking, inspectors general serve both Republican and Democratic presidents alike. Michael Horowitz at the Justice Department was an appointee of President Barack Obama, who has issued critical reports of both the Biden administration and Trump's first administration. It's a widespread massacre, said one of the fired IGs. Whoever Trump puts in now will be viewed as a loyalist, and that undermines the entire system. That shows how obvious it is what Trump's plan is, and everybody will know that whoever replaces these inspectors general will be Trump loyalists. And it's not like the Republicans are going to do anything about it, despite our new Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, acting like he cares about the IG's independence. When asked, will you commit to protecting the independence of the Department of Defense Inspector General? He said, yes, if confirmed, I commit to protecting the DoD's IG's independence. Well, he was just confirmed and guaranteed he's not going to do a damn thing about it. And of course, Senate Republicans are bending so far backwards their heads are in their asses. There may be good reasons the IGs were fired, says Senator Chuck Grassley. Lindsey Graham, acknowledging that the fires violated statutes, but shrugged it off. Just tell them you need to follow the law next time. Oh, is that how it works? You can just tell them I'll follow the law next time and get away with it. Somebody tell that to Luigi Mangione. And this decision left even Trump loyalists confused. One of the fired inspectors general said that the new administration does not want anyone in this role who is going to be independent. IGs have done exactly what the president says he wants, to fight fraud, waste, and abuse, and make the government more effective. Firing this many of us makes no sense. It is counter to those goals. It's almost as if Trump's goals have nothing to do with draining the swamp or fighting corruption.
Yesterday, in the dark of night, President Trump fired at least 12 independent inspector generals at important federal agencies across the administration. This is a chilling purge, and it's a preview of the lawless approach Donald Trump and his administration are taking far too often as he's becoming president.
So can Trump unilaterally do this, or do you see some legal challenges coming here?
Well, it's going to be difficult to challenge it at this point, but what the law says, so the Inspector General Act first of all, inspector generals were put in place by Congress to provide independent oversight over the executive branch. And so they have special authorities that enable them to do investigations within the executive branch. Then the Inspector General Act was amended 2008, I think, in terms of being able to have the president have authority to remove inspector generals, but the president under the law is supposed to provide 30 days notice to Congress. So the president has authority to do it, but the law requires that he provide 30 days notice. In this case, he didn't.
And if not, then what? What's the potential ramification?
If not, then Congress has a problem. So we are going to be in a situation, and this inspector general issue is one. The TikTok law is another, where Congress passed a law that said a certain thing is supposed to happen, and then that doesn't happen. So the remedies available to Congress are obviously, number one, they can do oversight. They can demand information from the executive branch explaining what happened. They can hold hearings if they want to. Normally, the other lever that Congress has available to it is the budget. Query whether in this particular situation, Congress would want to adjust budgets because they want inspector generals to be funded. And then another option that's potentially available is sometimes the House of Representatives actually brings lawsuits. But we'll see whether any of those things will happen. I think Senator Grassley, obviously, who has long been a defender of inspectors general, will want to demand answers for why these individuals were removed. But it is contrary to Congress's law.
Let's take a look at Project 2025 and see exactly how important inspectors generals are in that plan. You may be thinking that Trump's plan is to fire these IGs and then hire hapless idiots to fill their places who refuse to launch investigations into Trump. And while in some cases that's probably true, it's important to note that in some cases, like the EPA or energy, that inspectors general are very important in Project 2025's plan to instill a conservative dictatorship. This is just a simple exercise, but if we do Control F on Project 2025 and type in the word inspector, you can see that they don't call for the removal of the inspector general's position. What they do is put extra importance on the IG's office. It is important to ensure consistency across all potential legal positions taken by the department, in this case the Accountabilities Office, including those arising in litigation, congressional oversight, and inquiries received from the Inspector General. This next reference calls for the removal of the Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties because the CRCL now operates and views itself as a quasi-DHS Office of Inspector General. The CRCL officer should ensure that all civil liberties or civil rights complaints are sent to the Office of Inspector General for review. This paragraph calls on the Department of Justice to crack down on whistleblowers as hard as possible because personnel have sufficient access to legitimate whistleblower claims under protections provided by inspectors general. They intend to put heavy importance on the inspectors general's offices across all of the agencies. These inspectors general will be tasked with rooting out all non-Trump supporters from their relative offices. And why is that effective? Well, because they often use reports by the Inspector General of any respective office in order to justify drastic reform to the agency. Here's an example. Several reports by the Office of Inspector General were released showing waste and self-dealing, including security vulnerabilities and RFA leadership awarding insiders millions of dollars of grant funding. This is justification for defunding outreach in Asia. As justification for making it harder for children to have school meals, they argued that the NSLP and SBP, which are both programs that do school meals, are among the most inaccurate federal programs according to paymentAccuracy.gov, a project of the U.S. Office of Management and Budget and the Office of the Inspector General. As justifications for reforms in the EPA, they say that the EPA has been audited by the agency's Inspector General for decades, well beyond acceptable norms for private sector financial audits. So you can absolutely bet that whoever Trump tries to instill in these empty positions is going to fraudulently audit and investigate all kinds of programs in the government, which will be used to dismantle the services we need in order to have a functional government. Not only does this erode the checks and balances put in place to keep the executive office clear of any kind of dictatorship or authoritarianism, the many inspectors general offices that are spread across the government are a clear tool of this nationalist conservative fascist movement that's growing. We'll be here to cover whatever move that Trump makes next. I'm Tony Hinderman with Really American, and I'll catch you next time.